And welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we are watching 10 cars you don't believe exist. This could be a very good video here because I'm a car guy.
Cars follow a pretty basic design principle.
Get started.
4 wheels, an engine, and seats. The other design aspects of car design, however, are always up to the designer. This has led to some pretty crazy car designs over the years, some of which we're going to talk about in this list. Here are 15 cars you won't believe exist. Our first entry is the 1996 Suzuki X90. In the early days of the SUV boom, automakers experimented with many different designs. Some of the experiments worked, while others brought bizarre creatures such as the 1996 Suzuki X90. The subcompact vehicle was part two-door coupe, part SUV, and kind of a convertible with a T-top roof. The X90 didn't really succeed in any role other than looking like a giant tennis shoe. It had a car-like trunk that was too small to be useful, and despite its small size, the X90 was built on a truck chassis, so it didn't handle that well. Its 95 horsepower engine didn't provide much thrust either. The X90 was only sold from 1996 to 1998. Our next entry is the 1963 Chrysler Turbine. Call it an early alternative fuel vehicle, the 1963 Chrysler Turbine was powered by a pair of turbines, rather than a traditional internal combustion engine. It could run on anything from JP4 jet fuel to perfume. Each of the 202-door coupes made was finished in turbine bronze paint. Its turbine power plants provided 130 horsepower and an astonishing 450 pound-feet of torque. Instead of selling the car, Chrysler lent the 200 vehicles to hand-picked families for testing. Only 9 survive today, according to Chrysler, and 5 are actually drivable. Our next entry is the 1935 Stout Scarab.
What the hell is that?
Chrysler is known as the inventor of the minivan, and the 2021 Chrysler Pacifica Hybrid is one of the best ones you can buy today. The concept, however, goes back far beyond the first Dodge Caravan to the 1935 Stout Scarab. Only 9 Stout Scarabs were produced, making the surviving examples prized collector cars. It was a rear engine and rear wheel drive, with unibody construction instead of a body riding on a separate chassis. The Scarab had seating for 6 in its well-furnished cabin, and it included polished wood trim, a headliner made of wicker, and a card table. The middle seats could swivel 180 degrees, making the vehicle the perfect mobile office at the time. The Stout Scarab's designer, William Bushnell Stout, was a Ford Motor Company executive and also worked on the most successful airplane of the era, the Ford Tri-Motor. Our next entry is the aptly named Popemobile. Some of the weirder vehicles you'll find in the world are the various cars used to transport the head of the Roman Catholic Church on his travels across the globe. Most of the Popemobiles are heavily modified versions of production cars that allow the Pope to be seen by crowds. Many of the Popemobiles are modified Mercedes-Benz M-Class and G-Class SUVs, customized with elevated platforms and surrounded with bulletproof glass. The Pope will often use locally produced vehicles when he visits foreign countries. For daily tasks, Pope Francis prefers more austere transportation. He has been seen using an aging Ford Focus or a 1984 Renault 4 GTL on the streets of the Vatican.
Ridiculous.
Our next entry is the Karlmann King. It kinda looks like an F-117 stealth fighter, and is also priced like a supercar. On top of that, it's also outfitted with a uniquely luxurious interior. It is the most expensive SUV that you can buy, priced at $2.2 million. The very expensive Karlmann King
2.2 mil. 2.2 mil. Oh my god.
is produced in Italy by a Chinese car company. The massive truck weighs almost 5 tons. Based on a Ford F550 truck chassis with a 6.8-liter V10, the outrageous and optionally armored SUV is outfitted with a 45-inch flat-panel display, a Sony PlayStation 4, opulent reclining seats, a built-in coffee maker, and much more. Let's be honest, though. Isn't $2.2 million a small price to pay for a real-life GTA vehicle? The 1953 General Motors Firebird XP21. A full decade before the Chrysler Turbine arrived, General Motors had a turbine-powered engineering and design study on the road. The Firebird 1 XP21 looked like a jet fighter aircraft with stubby wings that only existed for looks. Its Whirlfire turbo power plant spun at 13,000 RPM to produce 370 horsepower. The prototype's look was penned by Harley Earl, one of the auto industry's legendary car designers. He created many of General Motors' most attractive concepts and production models. It appeared that the thrust would come from the car's jet fighter-like tail cone, but the turbine's power was actually channeled to the rear wheels. Our next entry is the Polaris Slingshot. It's hard to classify the 2020 Polaris Slingshot. Even state motor vehicle departments have trouble deciding whether the three-wheel open-air vehicle is a car or a motorbike. No matter how you define it, though, the Polaris Slingshot is a blast to drive, with great handling and authoritative acceleration. The Polaris Slingshot has a pair of widely spaced front wheels and a single wheel at the back. A roof is available, but for the most part, driving a Slingshot is an open-air experience. In some states, you have to wear a motorcycle helmet to stay legal. Power comes from a 4-cylinder engine that makes as much as 203 horsepower.
Definitely drive that.
It can be matched with either a manual or an automatic-style transmission. It can be equipped with car-like features such as cruise control, heated and cooled seats, and a 7-inch infotainment display.
Costs a lot of money.
Our next entry is the 1956 BMW Isetta. The car that became the BMW Isetta started as an Italian-designed bubble car produced by the ISO company in the early 1950s.
Same as the color.
Powered by a petite engine that just made 9.5 horsepower, the original Isetta had 2 wheels up front and 2 closely spaced wheels in the back. Its look wasn't its defining feature, however. There were no side doors in the Isetta. Instead, you kind of open it like a refrigerator. The front of the car swung open on a side hinge, dashboard and all. It had a single 2-person bench seat. BMW took over production of the Isetta in 1955. They refined the car and boosted its engine power to a whopping 13
You're going on your
horsepower.
side.
More than 161,000 Isettas were sold over the car's production life. The 1959 Cadillac Cyclone XP21. The 1959 Cadillac Cyclone concept was another of Harley Earl's iconic designs. Between a pair of rocket ship-like pods sat a glass bubble over the car's cabin.
Who's gonna drive this?
With only a thin strip of chrome at the top of the windshield, the driver had a near 360-degree view. You could turn the car into a convertible by simply flipping the back half of the canopy into the trunk. That's what the forward collision warning and automatic emergency braking systems do for drivers today. Our next entry is the 1962 PeAcEEEE. The 1962 PeAcEEEE was the smallest production car in the world. It's only about 41 inches wide and 54 inches long. Peale built 50 of the vehicles between 1962 and 1965, with only 27 originals known to still exist. It seats 1 with room left for a bag of groceries. There's 1 headlight, 1 wiper, and a single door. In 2016, an original sold at a Florida auction for $176,000. Top Gear presenter Jeremy Clarkson, now a host of Amazon The Grand Tour, famously drove a Peale P50 to and through BBC headquarters. Peale now builds a replica version of the P50, which you can buy either assembled or as a kit. You have a choice of power plants, including gasoline engines with between 3.5 and 8.5 horsepower, or you can have a 2-horsepower electric motor. Our next entry is the Reliant Robin. This car was the second most popular fiberglass car in history, and the Reliant was the second biggest UK-owned car manufacturer for a period of time. The Reliant Motor Company in Tamworth, England produced the Reliant Robin over a 30-year period, offering several different versions. First manufactured in 1973, the MK1 Robin was well received because of its good design and affordable price tag. In 2000, the final Reliant Robin was produced and was given away by the Sun newspaper in a Valentine's Day competition in 2001. Reliant three-wheelers are often the butt of jokes in British culture, and the Reliant Robin has been affectionately nicknamed the Plastic Pig because of its distinctive shape. The most famous Reliant vehicle is probably the iconic little yellow van used by Del Boy Trotter and Only Fools and Horses. Our next entry is the 1948 Tosco. This admittedly strange car looks a little bit like it has feet rather than wheels.
Looks horrible.
The 1948 Tosco was a post-World War II American sports car designed by Gordon Blue Rig. It featured airplane-inspired controls and was the first car in the world to have a T-top roof. When GM used the same design on their 1968 Corvette, Blue Rig ended up suing them as he owned the patent for this. The name Tosco stands for the American Sports Car Company. The strange-looking wheel covers are supposed to provide protection for the wheels from the wind, reducing drag as well as increasing speed. The prototype Tosco had an eye-watering cost, escalating to a huge $57,000. This meant that this vehicle never actually made it onto the production line in the end. Our next entry is the Volkswagen Thing.
Looks decent.
1973 Volkswagen Thing had its roots in a G-Plank utility vehicle from 1960s Europe. The Type 181, which was the spiritual descendant of the German Kuppelwagen, was built from 1969 to 1980. 1973 and 1974, it came to the US as the Volkswagen Thing. It was as bare bones as anything Volkswagen offered, and that pretty much says something right there. The convertible Thing had excellent ground clearance, an automatic locking rear differential, and not much else actually. Its list of safety features started and ended at seatbelts. Our next entry is the Amphibious Lamborghini Countach. I think almost everyone imagines what it would be like to drive a Lamborghini at some point, but what if you could own one and drive it in the water? Here's your chance to do just that, as someone is selling a one-of-a-kind amphibious Lamborghini on eBay right now, for the not too unreasonable price of roughly $26,800. It does have a few particularities, such as not being in decent condition, needing several repairs, and then there's the small fact that it's not an actual Lamborghini. This is a completely custom one-off car and was said to be one time the fastest amphibious car in the world. This UK registered car is actually listed as a Reliant Robin V8 Sports. It also features the engine of said vehicle. The seller refers to it as a Z1A and says the body was molded after a Lamborghini Countach 5000 key view with a restyled nose. It hasn't been made clear how the seller came into possession of the Z1A or when it was originally built, but it's said to have a long history of use as a publicity promotional vehicle. Apparently the car began life as right-hand drive, was eventually sold, converted to left-hand drive, shipped to the US to be used for filming in Hollywood, and then somehow made it back to the UK. It was then converted back to right-hand drive. It spent its last 15 years, however, sitting unused in storage and just gathering dust. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Our very last entry is the Amphicar Model 770. In the 1960s, nearly 4,000 people decided that buying a car that could double as a boat was a brilliant idea. Heck, even today's SUVs can't do that. Unfortunately, here's a case of a car trying to be a boat, but couldn't really do both things that well. The Amphicar 770 was a perky little thing with a steel body and folding roof, remarkable only by the peculiar way the front end abruptly cut away at the bottom. And if you look closely, you'd find a pair of propellers slung below the rear engine tucked behind the bumper. It meant that you could, if you really had the urge, drive straight off the road and across a lake. It was named the 770 because it was able to reach 7 miles an hour on the water and 70 miles an hour on land. As only around 4,000 Amphicar were actually sold, it's very rare and is sought after by vintage car collectors.
It's pretty cool.
Want one and are lucky to find one in good condition, they sell for...
I must say, I hope you guys enjoyed my video on 10 cars you won't believe exist. Let me tell you, if you enjoyed that, subscribe. And you know what, smash the like button. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Peace.